Okay, hey folks, my name is Mark Locklear, and I will be your instructor for. I'm making this video for two classes, so you're either in my CSC 151 Java class or the CSC 134 C++ class. Shells are super similar. I teach both those classes and use the Mirac book for those, and the structure is really similar between the two. So even though there may be slight differences in the shell we're going to look at in a second, generally everything is pretty much the same. So I generally make one video for both of those classes. So before we get started, just a little bit about myself. I'm an adjunct instructor, so I'm just part-time. Teach usually C++ and Java is what I've taught for the last few years. And my day job, I work for the Extension Foundation. That you can check us out at extension.org. We're a virtual organization, so I get to work from home or remotely, and we serve the Cooperative Extension Service, and I'm sort of all things tech for our organization. I do everything from like desktop support and those sort of things to I do a little bit of coding and development work, and a lot of project management. The last few years, I've sort of moved into project management space, so really like that. My platform or framework of choice is Ruby on Rails. That's sort of where I cut my teeth over the last 10 years or so. So that's generally when I think about web development. That's lots of times that's the context for me. Okay, let's talk about these classes. So first off, I'm going to share my screen and show you the shell in a second. Number one, this is, in case you don't know, this is a fully asynchronous class. That means there's no meeting times. My preferred, so the way the support goes is, number one, if you have questions, you send me an email. You can find my email. You can ideally do that through Moodle if you can use the messaging system in Moodle. That way it's tagged. Your message is tagged with the class. That way it's easy for me to get classes confused and not knowing what students in what class. But you can also email John M. Locklear at abtech.edu. You can find that inside the shell. But be sure to put your class maybe in the subject line along with whatever you have a quick question about. So that's number one, is ask questions there first. And then if we can't resolve it via email, then we can do a Zoom chat or maybe meet at the college. I'm out at the college a couple of days a week. So that's a possibility too. But generally, I email and just asynchronous support is important because that's sort of the way we work. If you're going to go into, especially if you're going in the software development field, and that's sort of the way I teach the class, is that I'm here to teach you software development. If you go into software development, that's generally the way things work. Even if you're not a remote employee, even if you're in person, you don't always have the ability to talk face to face with folks. So the ability to be able to write and express yourself and ask questions, and for me to be able to converse with you in that full format is going to be important. So if I emphasize and request that that's the way we communicate, I'm not trying to hide behind email or do anything. That's the way the industry works. So it's good to work on those skills sooner rather than later. So to that end, if you have a question, just don't send me a message and say my code doesn't work. That's not going to be very helpful, right? It should be, number one, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I've tried. And then this is what it's doing for me now, because sometimes you may see an error, but I might not see it on my end, depending on configuration or other things. So that's generally what I look for in an email when students are asking for help. And then also include your code too. I need to see your code, and not a screenshot, and don't copy and paste it in an email. Attach, if it's C++, it's going to be the .cpp file. If it's Java, it's going to be the .java file. That's where your code is going to live. So share that, attach that to an email, and send that along so I'm able to look at it and run it myself. I can't. The other thing is, I think students often think I can just look at code and find errors. I generally can't. I'm not that good. Most most developers are. You need to run it and see what it's doing, and then that's the way you sort of understand why a particular why code is doing what it's doing. So that's generally what I'm looking for. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and hopefully you will see the Moodle shell here. So this happens to be CSC 151, but again, C++ is going to look almost exactly the same. So first thing is the entire class is open from the get-go. I don't have the entire class done at this point. Usually I do, but we had Moodle issues this past summer and things were slow, and I wasn't able to go in there and set things up the way I want. So, but generally things are set up the way they're going to be for the whole semester. And that's the way I teach the class. The entire semester is open up from the get-go. If you want to sit down the first week and work through the entire course and write all of your code, in a week, you can do it. Now I wouldn't advise that. My recommendation is to take things 1 week at a time. We cover a chapter per week, and every Friday your coding assignment is due. So let's go ahead and talk about the assignments. So every week, I'll just take a random week here. Let's look at chapter 2. Every week you have a coding assignment and a quiz associated with that chapter. The coding assignment is generally going to be, and let's just look at randomly. Let's look at one here. So generally there are 3 coding assignments each week. So a coding assignment or 3 coding assignments per chapter. Generally those 3 are the first one sort of a gimme. So in this case, you can see here, I say, complete exercise 2-3 in the book. See if you can complete this without looking at the solution in the student files. So just so you know, again, this is for Java and C++. In your student download, the code you get, you have the solutions for all of the book exercises. Okay, so those are there for you to use. Feel free to look at those. And so lots of times what I'll do, not every time, but many times, your first coding assignment for the week will be, hey, complete this exercise in the book. See if you can solve it without looking at the solution. Don't take 6 hours to do it. I mean, I would spend 30 to 45 minutes, take your best stab at it, but look at the solution and just see if you can solve it that way. The other 2 exercises, one of them is going to be, so generally the second one, that's not the case in this case, but generally the second one is often I'll say, all right, do this exercise in the book, so you've got the solution for it, but then also add this or maybe change this or do something. So it's normally a tweak on an existing program you've already got the code for. And then the third assignment is generally going to be, you've got to write a program from scratch. So that being said, let me talk about the project assignments. So you have 2, let me go back to home here. There are 2 places you need to be aware of for writing coding assignments. One, obviously, is the book, the exercises that are in the book. These are in the Murac book. At the end of each chapter, there's usually 3 or 4 coding assignments there. I'll ask you to either do or modify those. And then the other one is this project assignments. And there's this project document here. Sometimes I'll link to it inside the coding assignment itself, but if you look at the top of Moodle, you've got this projects document. And I think this is probably also in your student download. So there's a PDF there. I've got an online version here. I'd prefer to use this online version because there are times I will come in here and make tweaks. But these project documents these are coding assignments that are associated with the book. And you don't have any code. Generally, you don't have any code for them, so you've got to code them up from scratch. So, just as an example, so you can see what these look like. Let's look at, here's project 3.2. This is a rectangle calculator. It's going to give you what the console is going to look like, and then it's going to give you some specifications or some specs. I like to call them specs. Some specs for how to write the program. So, yeah, just be aware of that. And in the assignment, I'll say exercise, 3.2, or if I say project 3.2, it's going to be in the projects document, not in the exercises in the book. So make sure you get that right. Often students will see project 3.2 and they'll go do the assignment in the book. So, and then I'm just going to send it back to you and ask you to do the correct one. So you don't want to waste time doing something you don't necessarily need to do. So just be aware of that projects document versus the assignments inside the book. Okay. So there's that. Coding assignments are due each Friday at 12 p.m. Let me say it again. Each Friday at 12 p.m. Every Friday, except for, in this case, it's fall, so we have Thanksgiving week off. Other than that, every Friday at 12 p.m. The assignment closes at 12 p.m. on Friday. So if you don't submit it by then you're not going to submit it. You're going to have to email me, and you can ask for permission to submit something late. Generally, I don't accept late work, but I understand life happens. So if you do need to, if you know assignment is going to be late, email me prior, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and say you're going to be late. And I'll usually make an exception. But if you come up after the fact, then I may or may not accept it. And generally, if you're late, more than a few times, then I'm going to start taking off late points. That, again, that's if I accepted it all. I say all that to say, stay on time. There are plenty of assignments. It's actually not a big deal if you miss an assignment or two or even three. I mean, that's the advantage of, there's a lot of work in this class. It's a lot of coding, but the advantage is if you miss a few, or if you don't do well on a few, I mean, it's really not that big a deal. So my recommendation is, stay on track. Again, the entire course is open up. So if you've got a busy week coming up or a busy month and you need to work ahead a couple of weeks, you can work ahead and submit those assignments early if you want. I don't grade. I'm only going to grade the assignment the Friday that it's due. I'm not going to work ahead and grade, so you won't get feedback on it necessarily. I won't grade it until it's time until the cutoff date, and it's actually time to grade it. But you can work ahead if you like. So just plan accordingly. All the work is there, and I think the shell is set up so it's really easy for you to sort of manage your work however you see fit. With regard to grading and weight, so generally, as I said, assignments are due at 12 p.m. on Friday. I generally get my grading done on Friday, so you're going to get immediate feedback by the time Friday's over with. Lots of times prior to that, I usually try and get started either late Thursday or early Friday morning. And so, obviously feel free to submit your coding assignments early if you can, and I'll get to them. I won't. Yeah, I'll just say that. Yeah, I'll normally start grading on Thursday and then also on Friday. But generally by Friday, I try to have all my grading done, and you should. You'll see your grade, and it's nice to get that feedback early and often. The weighting of grades too, and this is in the syllabus. Coding assignments are 50% of your grade. Quizzes are 25%, and then the final quiz is 25% of your grade. So that gives you an idea how the grades are weighted. The quizzes, I'll tell you right now, the quizzes are tough. Don't feel bad if you don't do well. From time to time, I'll randomly take a quiz, and I often don't do well. So the quizzes are hard. Just do your best. Again, if you don't do well, again, quizzes are only 25% of your grade, so keep that in mind. I've had students who, the average of quizzes is probably close to 60 or 70%. So, rarely I'll get some folks who do. If you're a good test taker, then maybe you'll do well. But generally, the quizzes are tough. You have two attempts on each quiz, and the highest grade is what's going to count in the grade book. Quizzes do not have due dates, so it's up to you. The coding assignments have a due date, again, every Friday. Quizzes, you can do those whenever you like. Again, my recommendation would be go ahead and do them when they're due. Do them the week of a given chapter. Obviously, if you're reading the content, doing the decoding, then you're probably going to do better on the quizzes if you do it that way. I have a how to be successful in this course video. Do watch that. And I'll tell you real quick, the secret sauce is read the book, and then do do the coding exercises. Okay. That's, reading the content first, and don't go straight to coding. Most folks like to put fingers on keyboard and start writing code, but my strong recommendation is going to be resist that urge. Read the chapter, just plow through it. Sometimes it's not going to make sense. I mean, try to understand it as best you can, but don't get hung up on things. Software development is its own dog, and it's probably not like anything else you've ever experienced or worked with. So try to soak in as much as you can, but sometimes it's just a matter of plowing through the content. And then when you're working on the coding assignments, you can go back and reference sort of syntax and other things like that. It's not all going to make sense. I mean, I've been doing software development for like straight coding for over 10 years now, and I'm still learning things. It's that kind of job and that kind of industry and concepts where you never know everything, and there's always something else to learn. I have a screencast each week. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say on the how to be successful. You'll see this in the video, is read the chapter, watch the screencast, and then do the coding exercises. The screencasts are really where the active learning part comes in. Again, this is an asynchronous class, so it's not like we have classroom time. So the screencasts are the way you hear that's the lecture part, right? That's where you get to hear me talk and do those. I generally keep it to about 10 minutes long. Generally, I'll take just a few minutes, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and talk about conceptual things. And then I code. I'll often ask you that, and that's my recommendation, is to code along with me in the videos. I will often choose one of the assignments that you've got due, and I'll code it inside the video. I won't do the entire thing, but I'll get you maybe halfway there just to get you started. I mean, a lot of coding is just the mental part of trying to plan out your work and how you think about things. And so that's what I try and do when I share the coding part. Anything else I want to share here? I think that's probably all I'm going to share for now. There's some administrative things that are going on the administrative side of the house, and we don't have things. There's a getting started assignment that that's going to come at some point, although we don't have it worked out how that's going to look. So I'll share over email with you more about that when I know that. So your goal over the next week is going to be to get your environment installed. This is true for C++ and Java. Is the first week is you've got a coding assignment. Number one, this getting started assignment is going to come at you, and I'll send you an email about that. But you've got a coding assignment due on Friday. So let me look at my calendar. That's going to be Friday the 25th. And again, it's always due at 12 p.m. It's just a simple Hello World assignment. So you're just literally printing out the words Hello World, or I may change that up, or you may have to put your name in there or something like that. But it's a super simple assignment. The idea is just to make sure you've got your environment set up. I'm not going to cover the various environments that you have to code in here because they're different for C++ and Java. And there's a bunch of different ones out there. I'm going to leave it up to you to choose what you want. For Java, the preferred, I guess, method would be NetBeans. And although you can use Replit for that, I've got a screencast, I think, on Replit for both Java and C++. So those are options. They all have their nuances. I think that the ideal platform is for you to use NetBeans on NetBeans for Java, and then either Visual Studio or Visual Code, or Visual Code, which is Microsoft's text editor. They've got a C++ plugin you can use for that. So I'll leave those up to you. You can read the notes that I've got inside the shell just to get your platform going. But that's the big thing to focus on this week, is getting your platform set up so you can actually write code and produce programs, write and test code. So I think that's all. I think I'll stop there. Okay. And so finally, just my philosophy on teaching and specifically with these two classes, is I'm here to teach you software development. I'm not necessarily trying to. The focus is not necessarily C++ or Java. The focus is these bigger, larger concepts within software development. And again, you guys are just learning, but the idea is that there's this umbrella of concepts that apply no matter what language you're coding in. So whether it's Java, C++, or Ruby, PHP, Python, JavaScript, all of these that I'm trying to teach you these bigger concepts. So when you go on to do great things in software development, chances are it's probably not going to be in C++ or Java. It's going to be in some other language. But again, I'm here to teach you this concept. And oh, by the way, we're going to use Java or C++ to sort of teach that. And if you go on, if you're taking either of these classes now and you go on to take the other class, I mean, I think that's the cool thing. And I try to teach it that way too, is that if you're taking Java and you go on and take C++ or vice versa, you're going to see some of the same concepts. And specifically, I use the Murak book. You're going to see some of the same coding problems and challenges you're going to run into. So it's just it's interesting to take two different languages and solve the same problem with it. So you can just see the nuances of syntax and those sorts of things. So that's all I'll say for now. Welcome to the class. I'm excited to teach you these languages and looking forward to seeing you later in the semester. Thanks.